Hey everyone, and welcome back to Haste Kitchen. This week I've infused this ribeye steak and aubergine with the most beautiful honey, sesame and miso dressing. It's so good. So first up, you're going to get oven up to 180 Celsius, which is gas mark 8. Now, I've got a beautiful piece of 24 to 28 day aged ribeye here, which is lovely. It's got a little bit of fat marbling in there, which you want, so it renders down and gives you that beautiful soft steak. We've got a couple of bits of cling film. Just gonna open them up. I've doubled this up today. I'm gonna put my steak in the middle, and then we're gonna put some seasoning on there. So, good amount of salt and pepper. Both sides, give that a good pat in. A little bit of pepper. Now, I'm going to wrap that up. So, a little bit of cling film over the top, allowing it enough room just to spread out as well. Now, you can use whatever steak you want on this. Things like hanger steaks works really well with this, skirt works really well. You're just going to punch this through with a little bit of flavour. So, using the back of a rolling pin or a steak mallet, whichever you've got, just going to give that a little punch down. Now, give it a really good whack down. Now you're happy that's a decent size and a decent thinness, we can just unwrap that out, and that's our steak ready to go. Right, so put that over to one side. Meanwhile over here we've got one aubergine, or eggplant, whichever you want to call it, in the US or the UK. I'm just going to take our knife and just cut that straight down the middle into half. I personally think these haven't got a massive amount of flavour to them, unless we put on a barbecue, we get a little bit of char through them. So I'm going to put some extra flavouring in today. I'm going to run our knife down the front and just zigzag this. So you're going almost to the skin on the other side, but not all the way through. And that's what you're looking for. You've got all these little pocket spaces now that you can get a little bit of flavour into. So, talking about flavour, we've got ourselves a bowl. We're going to make up a little bit of a marinade as well. This is going to go on top of it to actually punch it full of flavour. We've got 1 tablespoon of miso, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Then over here, we've got our tamari, which is a little bit of soy sauce. Probably adding in about 3 to 4 teaspoons, because we use that for the aubergine as well as the steak. We're going to use the same dressing on both. Over here, we've got some sesame oil, a good generous amount, so 3 to 4 teaspoons of that as well. Over here, we've got some honey. So for our sweetness, we're going to go in with around 2 tablespoons of this. Now for citrus, a little bit of lemon or lime, give that a good rub backwards and forwards, making sure you've loosened up all those juices inside. And just going to cut that in half and squeeze that through our fingers. Give that a good mix up, making sure that miso paste has really worked completely in with those oils. Once you're happy with that, we're going to grab ourselves a little bit of our coriander. I'm going to take just the stalk ends of these, because we're going to use the top ends and the leaves for garnishing later on. And I want these to be really, really small so they actually just char into the sauce itself. I'm using a decent sharp knife, just going to take off those stalks. Again, give that a really good firm chop up. I want them to be little tiny pieces, no big pieces in there at all. Now that can go straight into your sauce. We've got a pre-lined baking sheet pan here, just so this doesn't stick at all, because obviously there's quite a lot of sugar element here with the honey, but that's going to reduce down, and otherwise that will stick to the pan. So, with these, we are going to lay them down and open up the pockets. We're going to just glaze this straight over the top. Pull them open and let that glaze fall in between each one of those lovely gaps. You want to try and get that marinade as far down the vegetable as possible. Now you can actually put these in a zip bag and leave these face down, okay, overnight, and they will go completely brown all the way through with all those beautiful flavours. Don't worry about some of that sauce running down the sides, because we're going to put this in the oven for around 15 to 20 minutes at 180 Celsius, take it back out again, baste it, and then put it back in for another 5 minutes just to finish off. So while that's in the oven, we're going to get on with our rice and steak. So into a pan, going to add equal quantities of our water and rice. And using my zip tap, just going to bosh a little bit of water in there. And over here on our second ring, we're just going to get that up to heat. and get our rice on the go. Right, so the main part of this dish, you've got obviously the vegetables, got our rice there. We're going to introduce our steak. That has been sitting there nicely. It's up to room temperature, so it's nice and warm. I mean, just look at the marbling you've got there on the fat as well. That is going to be the perfect bit for rendering down. That's why I love using the ribeye steak. That higher fat element just gives it so much more flavour. It's flavour in fat, as I say. Okay, so we've got our marinade here. We're going to use exactly the same one again. I'm going to just use a lighter amount on this because we don't want to overpower the steak as well. So just a small amount and just lightly rub that out towards the outer side of the steak. So that's your marinade complete. We're just going to leave that for around 5 to 10 minutes to absorb some of those flavours. Our aubergines in the oven, rice is bubbling away. Just going to leave them, as I say, and then we'll get on with our steak. So they've been in the oven for about 10 minutes. Let's just pop them out again. And you can see there they started opening up, which is what you want. Now with those openings, we're just going to go in with a little bit more of our glaze. Don't be shy with it. Give it a little squeeze down. Make sure all those gaps get opened up. And that can go back in the oven again for another 10 to 15 minutes. Over here, I'm going to get a pan up to a good high heat. So you can see the steak there has taken on a lot of that marinade. We're just going to literally lay that onto a really nice hot pan. So you're looking at cooking that for about a minute either side. You do not want to overcook this one. Let it rest for 2 minutes while we serve up. We'll get our aubergines out of the oven. Look at the caramelization you've got there from the glaze itself, and they've opened up and taken on all those flavors. Over here for the steak to rest. As I say, that's what you're looking for, those beautiful char lines. That can just sit there just for a couple of minutes while we get on with our rice. So grab ourselves a plate and grab ourselves a little square. We're just going to fill that up with a little bit of rice. I'm just going to squash that with the back of the spoon all the way around so you get a nice flat surface. I'm just going to take that off. Right, and then we've got these beautiful, absolutely stacked full of flavour aubergines. We've got our piece of beautiful rested steak, and we're just going to cut this just on the slant. Lay that just over the top, like so. Over the top of this, we're going to add a good sprinkle of our sesame seeds, a good amount of our spring onions. Just going to chop these just on the tilt again. And then the last piece is really thinly chopped. That's going to give you that lovely texture just around the steak itself. Now with the last bits we just left off for our coriander, again, I want them really roughly chopped. Just scatter that all around. Everyone knows I like a little bit of chilli. I'm going to nip off some very last bits of this chilli and scatter that over the top. And last but not least, we're just going to take the last of our syrup glaze, just going to drizzle that over the top. This is the sort of thing I love. It's a little bit messy, but it is absolutely packed full of flavour. That is my miso glazed sesame aubergine with a beautiful pounded out ribeye steak, some sticky rice. I mean, that is going to be packed full of flavour. If you do recreate this one, which hopefully you do, hashtag me as Haste Kitchen as always every week. I love seeing your recreations. What's not to like? I'll see you next week. Cheers then, bye bye.